the Suicide Monk podcast, a platform dedicated to fostering open and honest conversations about the deeply sensitive and complex topic of suicide. Before we delve into the narratives and discussions presented here, it's important to emphasize that we are not medical professionals, therapists, or counselors. We do not possess the qualifications to offer clinical advice or treatment. Instead, the Suicide Monk podcast serves as a safe space for individuals to share their personal stories and experiences, all while preserving their anonymity. We encourage our guests to tell their stories anonymously, recognizing that privacy and anonymity can be crucial for those who wish to share their experiences without fear of judgment or exposure. Our mission is to create a supportive community, raise awareness, and promote understanding, all while emphasizing that seeking professional help is crucial when dealing with mental health issues and suicidal thoughts. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please reach out to a mental health professional or contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 for immediate assistance. Together, the Suicide Monk podcast aims to break the stigma surrounding mental health and let those who are struggling know they are not alone.
Welcome to the Suicide Monk, and I am your host. Today we're going to be concluding part 3 of 2 suicides, a widow, and 5 children. We left off last week where she was getting ready to explain that now that her husband's suicide was out, that she had friends calling on her, and she dove right into action to help them. And so then we dive into another attempted suicide. And, on top of that, we talk about some of her remedies and how she dealt with her grief, how she dealt with her kids. And also we get into psychedelics towards the end and what that has done, and some of those experimental things to change the course and boost the mood and find purpose when all seems lost. So just join us today. Find us on Spotify at The Suicide Monk. And the website is www.thesuicidemonk.com. If you need help or want to be on the show, just reach out. I'd love to talk to you at least and get some of your background and your story. Always interested in that. So just sit back, relax, and listen to our journey.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it's such an uncommon thing and it's so taboo and it's unspoken, and they're going through the same experience of a husband doesn't want anybody to know because of stigma. They're isolated and alone too. And then boom, here's somebody who's talking about it. Oh my God. Can you that's somebody who understands me and can maybe help me.
Right.
So you immediately are going to latch onto that.
Yep.
It made complete sense to me. And that's why then I had a different adrenaline kick of, well, I've got to help my friends because I didn't have help.
Right.
I didn't have somebody to talk to. I didn't have somebody to understand me. And now they're in the same position.
The unfortunate part is that now you have experience.
Right.
And you're exactly what you know, how to love people that are broken.
Yeah.
Now you really know how to, because of your experience. You probably, if you were to walk beside somebody again, it would probably look different.
Yes.
The weight that you carried would not be as heavy, but you'd be able to love people through that process.
Right. And I've spent a lot of time meditating on that concept of one, my capacity is limited at this point because of the exhaustion that I've already been through. And so I get short fused very quickly if I'm in a relationship that I feel like there's any dependence on me.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
But that's intimacy. That's different than
I know,
walking beside
but that's
a broken friend.
how well,
I know.
yes,
Yeah.
I know, but that's how I am with relationships now,
Oh, okay.
is
Yeah.
that,
Once you're triggered, it's like hard for you to.
right.
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to take care of yourself. I can take care of you too. Like I can be with you, but you've got to be getting your own help.
Yes, 100%.
And so like if I'm feeling like it's too much dependence on me, like relying on me to take care of them, that's where I've had problems.
Right.
That's where I go into panic mode and I push away, I run away.
Yep.
And I know it's normal intimacy, but
Well, it's terrifying
it is.
because you're facing the same thing, the same demon that's always haunted you,
Right.
or at least since it first presented itself.
And like you said, because of my capacity to love broken people, those broken people do latch on to me and say, oh, well, she can take care of it.
Yes.
No, I can't. Like,
right.
Major panics go down. So that's something that I'm still working on healing from. But as far as talking to those friends in that moment, that was different. That wasn't an intimate relationship that was then relying on me to help.
Right. They're trying to navigate their own war
and
right
so one of those friends, it was the communication didn't last long. I don't remember much from it. She was a much looser friend, but she had been a friend when I lived in Kansas. Actually, both of them were friends from Kansas. So I can't talk about that one much. But then the other friend was a deeper friend to me. And so like that communication and support and talking went on for many months, and she and her husband separated and they were still trying to work through things as he was getting help, but they were separate while he was getting help because that getting help time is very volatile and gets really intense. And so she needed to be separate from him during that time, but still was staying in communication with him and supporting him. And so one day they were on a video call and he told her he was going to kill himself, and he went and got a gun and right there on screen shot himself in the chest.
Right in front of her.
Right in front of her. So she called me in that moment of, I'm driving to the hospital. This is what's going on. And so I was just there supporting her with it. They got divorced, and
he lived.
He did. Yeah. Sorry. I knew.
Wow.
He did. He lived. It wasn't an effective shot. Like it kind of barely grazed some muscle. It didn't penetrate any organs or anything. So, like, it was an attempt, but it wasn't well done.
Well, yeah, it was in the heat of the moment, just trying to.
It was, yeah, it was.
It's trying to cause somebody. It's trying to transfer your pain to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is. A buddy of mine said that, and like, it's actually like when he was talking about suicidals, it's like, basically the pain that I feel once I take my life, that pain is transferred to all the people that love me.
That's a fair analysis of it. That being said, I still don't fault somebody for taking their life.
Why is that? You seem to have a little too close of a relationship with this thing that other people have brought into your life. Like you got a brother, a husband, a friend. Like you're in close relationship, actually closer than most people, with that narrative of taking your own life.
The reason I don't fault them is because I don't know what it's like to be in that place, to be in that position, to feel what they were feeling, to feel the intense level of despair and hopelessness that they had to feel. And when they're feeling that much pain and feel like they cannot go on with it, at least for the suicides that I've experienced, they weren't doing it to harm anybody else.
Right.
They just felt pain that they couldn't feel anymore.
Yeah, it becomes very
It's intensely
tiresome.
empathetic for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
One of the comments I remember reading on Facebook in response to my death announcement was somebody said, "Oh wow, I am so sorry. He felt so alone in that moment." And or it's so sad to me that he felt so alone. And my thought has always been, but I don't know that he did feel alone, because he was texting with, he was communicating with his most intimate people, his two best friends and his brother and his cousin. And he had, when I got his, so I know this because I looked through his phone after, like I might have taken his phone in the moment, which may or may not have been tampering with evidence. I don't remember when I took his phone. I don't remember when I got his phone, but when I got his phone and I went through all the messages and the phone logs, and there was this phone number that kept coming up repeatedly. And it was just a phone number. It wasn't a contact name. It was just a phone number that was coming up. And I was like, what the hell is this phone number? And I called it, and it was the suicide hotline. So
he was searching.
he was.
So
like, this is where I get with people and this, when they're like, oh, hey, we need more funding for the suicide hotline. And oh, hey, like, reach out and talk to your friends if you're feeling low, and we'll be there to help you. And, all this suicide prevention stuff. And I think some people benefit from that. In fact, I know some people benefit from that. But not everybody can be saved.
that's true.
That's a thing that we, like, I think that just takes over people's brains when there's a senseless death or an unnecessary or untimely death like this, that they feel it's senseless or unnecessary or untimely. And the brains just go to, well, how could this have been prevented? How can we prevent this from happening to anybody else? And
Well, I can tell you how to do that. Stop allowing abuse. Shut down child pornography. Put people in jail for the real shit. Start doing something about people that violate other people.
right, but you also said it's not all about abuse.
It's not.
So not all suicides can be prevented by stopping abuse.
True.
So therefore, not every suicide can be prevented.
But a lot can.
And I'm not arguing against that at all.
Yeah.
And I'm all on board with
Yeah. Well,
fixing societal abuses.
yeah. That's easy because they're right in our face.
But I just feel like, we just try to stop and prevent everything, and we can't. I used to, I don't remember when the phrase died by suicide started to become more preferred usage than committed suicide.
Mm.
But I hated it when it started, and I always bristled against it, and I always fought against its usage. But as I've taken time to read philosophy and meditate on it and really spend time getting to know suicide psychologically and philosophically and socially, I do think that there's a solid distinction between committing suicide and dying by suicide. That, there can be such a snap that occurs in somebody's brain that this is only going to end in suicide, or the mental health is so deteriorated that it's like if you've got stage 4 cancer, it's not a question of if you're going to live or die. It's just, when is this going to kill you?
Yes.
So I think there is an element of some people do die by suicide, and then other people commit suicide. It can be an angry, hateful thing to commit suicide.
Yes.
And that is something that in my healing process after this, 1, I went to therapy, and 2, I was very open talking to friends and going out to activities and taking care of myself. But still, I want to say about 10 months after the death, I just kind of hit a wall of, I'm talking to my friends and they're being sympathetic or empathetic. And yes, I'm talking to my therapist and she's telling me how to handle things and like how to take care of things and how to understand the psychology of things. But none of these people understand me. They don't fucking understand. And I got so upset. I was like, what's the point of talking? Like, you guys don't understand. You don't understand what I feel. You don't understand what I think. What's the point of talking to you? It was the nature of the really, really fucking complex emotions of, we had decided to divorce. And so I wasn't the grieving widow that people expected of me.
Right.
Because I didn't love him anymore at that point, and I didn't want to be with him anymore at that point, and I was scared of him at that point because we were fighting and he kicked me out of the house. So I'm not missing him. I'm not sad about him. I'm sad for my kids to have lost a father. I'm angry that now I'm dealing with this on my own. I'm feeling grateful for the life insurance and Social Security death benefits that put me in a position to have a better life than I had with him. So feeling grateful for that, but angry at him. And so feeling guilty about that, and then feeling shamed, not by other people, but myself, making myself feel shamed. Like, there's just layers and layers and layers of all of these emotions, and feeling like nobody actually understood.
Right.
And friends are like, well, you should just join some widow groups on Facebook. And so people suggested widow groups. And I was like, this is a horrible place for me because they're sad and missing the guy. I'm sorry for them for that, but I can't be here because they don't understand me because I'm angry. This is not a safe place for me to be angry.
Well, it's a different kind of anger because I want to be careful here. I have somebody very close to me that lost a son due to this process of suicide, and her anger is probably different than yours, but she's angry. She's angry that he's gone. She's angry that she can't talk to her son anymore. And some of the things that you mentioned. So similar anger, but you have another level to this because of where you guys were at in your marriage.
Yeah.
And then you feel the guilt on top of that because you feel angry because of that.
Uh-huh. And then, then COVID lockdown happens and I'm angry that you're not here experiencing this bullshit with me. And I've got 5 kids and I'm locked in my house with them. And, and still managing their grief and all of their angry outbursts and their behavioral meltdowns and emotional meltdowns. And so many complex levels of anger. And yet then feeling guilt because I shouldn't be angry. And then people are like, no, your feelings are valid. And I'm like, yes, but if I really told you all of them, you'd really think I was an asshole. So anyway, I finally found, there is a group on Facebook. It's a women's group for, survivors of suicide.
Okay.
And
do you know what the name of it is?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I can pull it up on Facebook while I continue to talk.
Yeah, let's plug that.
And I do believe that it is a private group, I don't know.
Yeah, those generally probably would be because they don't want to be exposed and have the ridicule of psychos out there.
So I'm gonna see. I may or may not still be in the group. Because at one point I felt like continuing conversation in there was causing me to relapse when I was growing and progressing forward. And so I wasn't in a place where I was strong enough in my forward growth that I could stand where I was and help somebody else in their feelings without having it relapse me.
Right.
So right now, if I'm still in this group, I could probably participate in helping other people who are going through it presently. But I finally found this group. Somebody in the widows group had told me about it when I vented, and I just said, is there a place for widows who are angry at their deceased husband because they were going through a divorce? And they were like, I don't know, did you want to give us a little bit more details about this? We don't understand this because we don't feel that. I guess I must have mentioned that we had decided to divorce and then he committed suicide. So I do need help with grief and understanding, but it's not their flavor of grief. And so somebody told me about this group that was essential for me with my healing progress of feeling understood, feeling seen, feeling like I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. There's not something wrong with me for the way I'm feeling, because other people have gone through this. They know what this is. And so that was essential for me. And then it also, everybody in there was pretty open in discussions. We had no filter for graphic descriptions because we needed to talk about it.
Well, yeah,
And
it's the
so
same. It's the same, yeah.
it was very open. And so I can say, looping back to the original thought of there's a difference between committing suicide as an angry, hateful act, that I have heard women's stories of being in an argument with their partner and he grabs a gun and does it right in front of her successfully.
See, and I think that's cowardice, actually.
That to me is
It's just mean. I mean,
it is. It's a hateful act saying, you know what? Fuck you.
yeah,
You're going to have to live with this
for the rest of your life.
image
Yeah.
burned into your brain
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. So there's loads of stories and loads of, and that group also hearing so many stories of how things unraveled is also what has put me in a position, excuse me, I'm sorry, is also what has put me in a position to be so open-minded about this. And like, it's a very empathetic thing for me for both sides.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
person who leaves and the person who stays. That I don't feel like there can be judgment except for those assholes that do it hatefully.
Yeah.
There's not judgment to me.
That's interesting because I come from a very judgmental town.
Well, I used to be a really judgmental Mormon.
Oh, well.
So
yeah, I mean, and it's natural. I mean, we're indoctrinated this way.
Yeah.
You know, growing up as kids, you know, I mean, it's not uncommon to feel that way. It's just, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for you. It's not good for them.
No, it's unhealthy for, yeah, it's a really unhealthy way to interact with humans.
Well, it
your
is.
fellow humans.
Yeah.
Like, and that's I'm gonna say that's a word that I use a lot that makes people look at me weird.
Humans.
Oh yeah, I say humans.
Yeah.
I talk to my kids and I say, oh hey, look at what those humans are doing over there, and people are like, did you just want to say people? Like, I don't know. I feel like when we say humans, that flips a little switch in our brain to realize
that we should be respecting
each
other.
We're humans. They're humans. We're humans. We should be respecting each other, not the hateful bitches.
Right.
We're all humans. Let's not hate on humans.
Right.
Can we all just respect other humans?
There's two things.
Let's be nice to humans.
Yeah. There's actually one thing that leads to another thing, but one of the things, like, I think everybody's story is important because I feel like I always have something to learn from you or somebody else. It takes judgment out of it for me. That's the natural, because I feel like I have something to learn from you, because I value you that much. It takes judgment away from me. And it doesn't seem to enter into my realm anymore. I'm like, I might not like somebody for some of their behaviors, but I'm not like, I don't feel like that's judging them.
Right.
It's just, I don't agree with that.
And it's fine to disagree with things.
100%.
Like, you can disagree and still not have your brain go into enemy mode on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be us versus them. I disagree with you, so that means that we're against each other.
And that's not true.
Right. That's not true, but that's exactly everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
That's how our world is right now.
And see, and that's what, I kind of woke up this year and I'm like, and I've always kind of seen it, but I've always ignored it. I think I see the world for what it is, humans for what they are. And I don't think they're that good. But I would probably piss off a lot of people saying that, because I don't agree with that narrative that humans are good. I think we're kind of parasitic, actually. No, I think we're really parasitic in a lot of ways. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. That train left.
That's okay. That happens.
Did you find that Facebook?
No. I'm kind of thinking it may have been something censored on Facebook for sensitive content.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because as I'm trying to type into Facebook, women's suicide support group or widows of suicide, it's telling me
the AI won't let you do it.
Yeah, you can't look for it. It's red flagging me, saying, "Can we help? Posts with words you're searching for may be sensitive or encourage behavior that leads to harm. If you're having a hard time or just want someone to talk to, we're here to support you." So,
thanks, Facebook.
I mean, that may be a fallout from like the whistleblowing stuff that happened, and the congressional oversight that has started occurring.
This is just a taboo subject.
But this is recent.
You think so?
Because that group was there 4 years ago for me.
Oh,
it was there 3 years ago for me. It was there 2 years ago for me.
So they're censoring.
There's right, but out of a sense of, there have been problems with people bullying online and encouraging that behavior, and so now they're needing to cover their bases to not allow it to be discussed.
Oh yeah.
Out of a sense of protection from people who may be vulnerable to it. That's my interpretation of this.
Well, that's probably a fair interpretation.
So, because, there was all of the congressional hearings for how social media contributes to these harmful behaviors in teens and everything, and like eating disorders and cyberbullying, and so that stuff goes on. So if those words have been flagged and out of protection for people.
Yeah. On all the like Chat GPT, and I think there's another one that I look at. You can't write suicide in there at all, because then it's like, oh, you need help. Here's a suicide hotline. Blah blah blah. I'm like,
right.
I could Google that.
Right, but then the question for me with the suicide hotline is that run by people who have been there and had that feeling, because primarily what people are looking for in support is I'm desperately reaching for somebody else who's got this experience that
understands it. Yeah.
Absolutely understand me, not just kindly talk me through it with sympathy.
Well, but just have book knowledge.
Right.
Because you're
like that. Like I said, that only got me so far in my healing.
Yeah.
I had the trauma-trained therapist. I had friends who listened to me and supported me and held me while I cried. But it still felt isolating and alone.
Yeah.
So I went to the internet to search for people who understood. And I was able to find that. But clearly, if I went there now, I can't find that.
Well, I've looked at this, and nobody's speaking about it from my side of it, because there's no voice to it.
Right.
It's very, very frowned upon to even mention it. And that's the detriment to it. Like if
there's a good number of topics that are forbidden to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. This just happens to be mine.
There's a beautiful episode of Grace and Frankie.
Oh, is that?
On Netflix. It's the one of the two old women who they're in their late 70s when the show begins, and their husband, the opening scene of the show is these two couples getting together, and the women's husbands say, we have we need to tell you something. I'm leaving you. And the other husband says, I'm leaving you too. Because we're gay with each other and we have been for 20 years. And so, like, it's a beautiful show. Like, I watched several seasons of it, entirely different topic, but there's one episode that, because of their age, they talk a lot about death, because when you're in your late 70s and your 80s and your friends start dropping like flies, you talk about death all the time. You think about death. It puts you in your own sense of mortality because, hey, that friend was the same age as me.
Right.
And, you know, it makes sense at that age. It's less shocking at that age. But when you're suddenly losing all of your friends in quick succession, it gets hard. So there was one episode, though, where like this friend came up and she said, hey, I'm back in town. And she is like the bubbly friend who is all happy, and she's the wild free spirit who travels the world and does all these things and throws all these parties. And she's like, I'm back in town, and you know what? I want to throw a party. And so she's just talking about throwing this party. And at some point in the episode, it comes out that it's her goodbye party. And she, you know, she like hints at it. Well, it's a going away party. Well, where are you going to? Oh, you know, somewhere far away. And she's hesitant to talk to the Catholic woman about it because she's still very stringent in her beliefs, and she's she's just an uptight person in general. She's very controlling, type A personality, like was very successful in running a business and everything. So like, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that wasn't the person she felt she could open up to. The other so Grace is the Catholic, uptight woman. And again, that's not a reflection of the Catholicism. That's just Grace was uptight. Yeah. Yes, that's the personality of the character. And then Frankie is like a 60s hippie who's anti-government and like free living and live and let live personality, who the friend returned to town had made an arrangement with Frankie and told Frankie all the things, that, hey, my breast cancer is back and this time it's terminal. And so, you know what? I don't want to write it out. So
I don't want to suffer.
I don't want to do that. So she makes an arrangement with, she tells Frankie she's got this suicide plan of this drug and has it all planned out. She'll be in bed. She'll take this. She'll fall asleep. She'll just not wake up.
Right.
No mess, no fuss, no pain, anything. And she was like, so if you could just be there with me. And Frankie, you know, feels the emotions and the sorrow of it, but understands. And then, you know, Grace, when she found out, goes into, well, no, we got to fight this. There have to be other options. We got to try other things. Why would you kill yourself? Are you sad with life? Are you like, what's going on? She's like, no, I just don't want to go through that experience. I don't want the slow, deteriorated, painful death. I want to just say my goodbyes now. And I absolutely loved that episode. It was very beautifully done and written and performed, and it did go through that way with that woman's plan.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful thing. It was good for me to watch. I don't remember what started me off on that in the first place, but
I don't either.
It was a fantastic episode, and it was very helpful.
Well, I think it had to do with some people consider the stigma too taboo. like the
Right.
Catholic woman.
Right.
And
And
then
it
there
can
are other
be
people that will,
healthful and healing.
yeah,
It's it can be it's dignified.
it is. And
It's humane. We do this with our pets,
yeah,
but we can't handle doing it with humans.
yeah. It's just a euthanization is all it is. And you have to have a reason in the United States. Like you have to have some sort of terminal illness that's going to take you within 6 months before they'll euthanize.
In some states.
It's
Is it in all states?
All states.
Oh,
No,
okay.
okay. No, I'm sorry. There's only some states that will euthanize, but those are the stipulations.
Oh, okay.
There's only like 4 states, I think, something like that. 4 or 5
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't think euthanasia was
but I think Salt Lake's one of them, or
legal
Utah
in the country.
is one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I think maybe Portland or Oregon, I mean.
I was going to say Oregon and Washington seem to be.
Yeah, they're probably up there.
Yeah.
But even, there's not a lot of organizations out there for suicide either. There's like 4 or 5 in the world that I've discovered. Now, I'm not a very good researcher, and I can't find. I was
going to say I haven't looked.
Yeah, I can't find tequila when it's sitting right in front of me.
My only awareness is the suicide hotline.
Yeah, I started doing some research because, this journey has taken me from going to take my life to trying to save people's lives. And it's like, so, it's weird, but it's kind of the counterintuitive that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is what got me here.
There is a wonderful local support group in Colorado Springs for children left behind by suicide.
Really?
Yes. So I put my kids in that. I think they just have to be like 8 or something. They just want to, have an old enough understanding, I guess, to be able to have conversations.
Right.
And it is run by, like social workers or therapists, or I don't remember what their degrees and qualifications are. And in fact, one of the guys that was running the group while my kids were attending it was like he was finishing his degree at the time, and so it was kind of a bit of an internship for him doing that. And so then he was moving on. I can't even remember the name of it. I'll see if I can Google it and see if Google will allow it.
Yeah, if you text it to me, I'll put it in the description at the bottom.
But my kids loved that. It was a good, safe place for them. It was, more than just therapy and talking to an adult one-on-one. It was a support group of, hey, there's these other kids here too. And
they're not alone.
They're not. Yeah, exactly. It's not just me. I'm not alone. I'm not the only person going through this experience. And I didn't get to know many of the other kids or parents involved in the group. It wasn't all necessarily a parent. It was any family member. So 2 of the boys in the group were there because their 19-year-old brother had committed suicide.
Okay.
And I talked with the mom occasionally while we were waiting for pickup or whatever, because parents didn't stay. So that it could be like if kids needed to say something that they didn't feel comfortable saying in front of their parents weren't there. Kids could open up to this other adult. And so yeah, I got to talk with her a bit and told her I didn't know what it was like to lose a son, but I'm here because the husband, but also I lost my brother, so I understand your boys. And
so
and then I was also a safe place for her to share her dark humor and her vices that she was going through to cope and take care of herself in the process that maybe other people judged her for doing. And I was like, no, that's fine with me.
Yep.
Safe place here.
So to touch on your children a little bit, Um, are they still doing any type of therapy? How many years has it been now again?
It's been 4.5 years,
Okay, that's
and we I don't think we've done any of the therapy or support group since 21. Like, nobody's vocalized wanting to go back to it or needing to go back to it, or nobody's expressed a need for help and support.
sure. Do you try to keep that narrative open with them about their dad?
Yeah.
That probably helped.
I mean, for a long time I couldn't talk about him with them. I struggled with that. That was, the anger was so intense that, like, it was, and the experience was still traumatic for me.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you spent
Just
10 years of your life there with them, maybe more,
yeah, well, and I still
through all the struggle and everything. And
right, all of it. And I was still the one who found him. And so I had that image.
yeah,
And so, like,
that's actually why I asked, why didn't you call the cop? I was like, because that's immediately, I'm like, I don't think I'd want to find that. You don't know what you're walking into. That's the only reason I asked that.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
know, I mean, I appreciate your answers. So.
Mhm. So yeah, for a long time I couldn't talk with my kids about him. It was so angering, it was so triggering for me. I struggled with my oldest son because he looks exactly like my husband.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a struggle for me a lot too. So that also compounded um, my emotions of feeling like maybe sometimes I was projecting anger onto my son and then feeling intense sadness and sorrow and guilt for that because I couldn't stop it.
Right.
And instead of being a loving, comforting mother, here I am, like, clenching my fist when I see him.
How have you
He was
gotten,
9.
through some of this, the intense anger? Well, like even with what you're talking about with your son, how have you managed to climb that mountain? Because that's what separates you from getting better and healing.
The therapy was helpful for that. I'm going to say it's just a lot of elements. The therapy in talking about it, and then having the coaching element of supporting me with tools for how to manage it, like meditation or counting or breathing techniques, or go hold an ice cube until it melts. I don't remember the psychology or physiology behind that, but it's a thing.
It keeps your focus because you create cold and then it turns numb, then it's pain. So it takes your focus
Yeah.
away from all this other shit and puts it on one thing. Would be my guess.
Tattoo, well, for that matter, tattoos. I didn't have any tattoos before he died, and I got my first one just a few weeks after his death, and then 2 months later got one around my birthday to have a distraction, and then I got one on his birthday to have a distraction, and then so yeah, the tattoo therapy helped. I was exercising heavily at the time, so that was helping with that, because while my kids were in the group therapy, then I would take the ones that were too young for it and drop them off at Child Watch at the YMCA, and I would go exercise. And so I'd just burn things out on a treadmill or a bike or the swimming pool, and then just decided, let's, like, low key train myself for a triathlon, and I'll just log my own stats, not like that I would participate in one, but just logging my own stats. I was playing volleyball. That's a physically aggressive sport. Not that I was like tackling other players, but
Right.
like
But it is aggressive, especially if it's sand volleyball.
you know, just channeling that anger into smashing a ball.
So you put it in healthy places.
Yeah,
It sounds like.
tried my best to direct it in healthy ways, and then COVID lockdown took it all from me.
Yeah.
So that became a struggle for me, was that I lost all of my outlets. The suicide was June 2019 and COVID lockdown happened May 2020. That was less than a year into the process to have all of my coping methods
Yeah, it's a hell of a time to sit with yourself.
taken from me and then locked in my house with my kids, and they've lost their coping methods. They've lost their outlets. It sucked. I mean, I know it sucked for everybody.
Right. Just a different
but it
level.
Sucked.
Yeah.
So what else have I done for my anger? Oh, piano. That has been an anger outlet for me my whole life. I mean, I remember one time in high school, I was pounding anger out on the piano. And when I say piano can be an anger outlet for me, I mean, I play music that causes me to aggressively pound the piano when I'm using it as that outlet. I'm not playing Happy Little Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. I played that, and I love that. But I beat the shit out of a piano when I need to beat the shit out of a piano. And so I was doing that one time in high school. I was pounding out Pirates of the Caribbean, which is really aggressive on the left hand. And my sister comes, and this is the older sister who became the funeral director. She comes and she's like doing what asshole siblings do, and she's poking me and like giving me shit. And to a degree, that's like what we had always done when I was playing the piano. Like, I maintain that she trained me for piano recitals by constantly distracting me and heckling me while I was playing the piano. And I just have to learn to stonewall it. So then, like, when I've got stage fright during a piano recital, never mind, just stonewall the shit. I got it. So I lasted like all of 5 seconds of it, holding it together. And I exploded at her, and I grabbed her and I threw her onto the couch. And I'm a small person, but I plowed her onto the couch and I grabbed one of the pillows and I started beating her with the pillow. And I said, with every hit of the pillow, don't you know I beat pianos so I don't beat people? And she left me alone.
That's fair.
It was a pillow, not my fist. But again, just recognizing, like, I don't know, I guess I've had this self-awareness of I have anger that comes up and I need to unload it in healthy ways. And so what are healthy ways that I can physically let this out of my body?
So let's wrap this up.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have any last words of advice for somebody maybe in your position or on my side of it? I mean, you've definitely experienced your fair share of this, and you know the emotions, and you seem to have a pretty good handle on recognizing what's what and then doing something about it.
I feel like finding somebody that you can be open with and talking with, and somebody who can understand you, is the most helpful thing. And I know it's a scary thing to talk about, a taboo subject, but it's hard to find a person if you don't open up first and like test the waters to see who's going to respond in the right way.
Very true.
Especially now that Facebook has censored that from being a searchable option. Just finding a support group of people who understand you. And my dad did that. He went to a support group. I think it was just general for grief, though, not specific for suicide, but he did do that. My mom may have gone once or twice, but mostly my dad went to it. So, like, I cannot stress the importance of feeling understood and not feeling alone.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's the whole point. I think, I've got some great friends and I feel alone. And I don't know, I've been thinking about it a lot. How do I change my perspective on that? Because it's not because they're absent or I don't have friends. It's just, it's been ingrained in me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of my big things here is to try to find people to walk beside people. And then it becomes a reciprocal relationship. But no, I thank you for being here, Ann. I appreciate everything. Appreciate your story. It's definitely going to be a 2-parter. So.
I figured, yeah.
So, but no, this is the important stuff, and I'm glad we got to do this. So I really do appreciate this, and sorry for all your loss. And of course, if we can do anything, we're happy to. So that's what this thing is for. We want to help people. And no, we can't save everybody, but we can save the people that want to be saved.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing. Some people don't realize they have a voice.
When I say that not everybody can be saved, that's not discounting the people that can be saved. That's not discounting the effort. That's just saying,
right.
You need to mentally let go. You need to handle.
Well, there's a balance.
Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't control everything.
Well,
you can't save everybody.
Yeah. And people hold on to the fact that they can't save somebody. And it's not your responsibility.
No. Humans die.
Yeah.
And
we make our own damn choices. And again, I think this is one of the most altruistic things that you can do. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I'm not an advocate for suicide. I think it's a terrible place to be this sad. And a buddy of mine said that. He's like, people living don't know how sad those people that are dead have been.
Yep.
They just don't.
And that's why, to me, it's a no judgment zone.
Right. Yeah. And he made some very valid points.
No judgment. It's just empathy.
Yeah. I'm not an advocate, but I understand it. I mean, I'm on this side of it. Like, I don't want to be this sad. I don't want to be this broken. I don't want to be this fucked up in the head. I don't want to have to be self-deprecating all the time, but I can't. Like, I've done all the therapy. I've done all the books. I've done all the prayer. I've done and it just hasn't changed.
I'm going to ask then if you've tried psychedelics.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course I have.
Well, good fuck for you, because I don't know, it's still that while we're talking about taboo things, that's still semi-taboo.
Well, it's super taboo, especially.
Well, it's becoming less so.
Yeah. Well, here it is. Here it's not as taboo.
Sure.
Because
I'm just going to say in national psychology journals and news articles and everything, it's becoming less taboo. There may still be states and niche communities that it is completely taboo, but so that's why
the
bring it up with a degree of hesitancy of I don't know if this is still how taboo is this, but
more and more people are talking about it. Yeah. The only thing I don't really understand the microdosing and how it works, or how you do it, how you focus on a particular problem to solve that problem. Like, I struggle with craving nicotine, and from my understanding, like mushrooms, psilocybin can help you with those types of things, or even terrible thought process like I have. It can kind of switch, shed light on your situation per se, and actually change the perspective of what you have about yourself and about the world in general. But that's never happened for me. So I think I'd have to go to some serious coaching for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It can be really helpful. And so if you're unsure how to do that yourself, um, then yeah, some coaching could be helpful. As far as microdosing goes, whatever access somebody may have to mushrooms, to psilocybin, in whatever form, from what I've read online and done myself, the microdosing protocol seems to be 1 day on, 2 days off.
okay. Yeah, I knew it was
And
something like
so
that. Yeah.
you're not doing it daily. You're taking your small amount
It's like a half a gram or something like
on
that, or
one
maybe
day.
less.
And it can vary person to person
Oh,
too,
okay.
what that is. I've experimented with different dosages myself and said, okay, well, that was too much. I'm going to scale it back. And so I've experimented with it myself to find what works for me, what's eating enough to get me
It's a mood boost,
that mood
basically.
boost.
Yeah.
Yes. Without,
Tripping. Or,
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a big scale between
yeah, there is a big
a mood
scale.
boost and tripping.
Yeah.
Big, big scale. But to even feeling like there's the mood boost and then it crosses into like maybe feeling a little high and like, oh, I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
do things without even calling that a trip. So there's a lot of fluctuation in between. So yeah,
Have you found healing doing that?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I have been working with that just this year, starting in January.
Okay. Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
And that's not related to any of this death and grief or anything. Oh my God, how many episodes are we going to have to do here?
we're working on 3 right now.
Apparently, we just crossed into the third episode. Um, so there I was this year in a complete depression and state of mind with my marriage. There is a current marriage that is also currently dissolving.
Oh, okay.
So there I was in a completely depressed state earlier this year, at the beginning of this year, and in therapy. And, um, my therapist was recommending ketamine treatment for me, but you can't just opt into ketamine treatment without having a diagnosis and prescription meds for 6 months.
Sure.
So it
That
can't just
seems a
be,
little.
I'm choosing ketamine. It has to be, well, we tried other stuff and now as a last resort, we're choosing
Right.
ketamine. But, I didn't want to like have side effects or personality alterations or anything. And I was really had been researching and reading about psychedelic healing for depression and mental health. And so I found a friend who found a friend and got some mushrooms and um, had a nice trip in my bedroom. And um, it starts with the mood uplift and the uncontrollable, I'm laughing and I don't know why. And then it morphs into so much mental and psychological introspection and conversations with yourself that last hours, but you look at the watch and it's only been 2 minutes. Part of those conversations for me were having reconciliation with my dead people.
Okay.
Um, of having reconciliation with my brother and feeling like, what if he had had this? And with my husband, who, same thing. What if he had had this? What if he had had this to help him? Would it have helped him? Feeling like it would have helped him. Um, my abusive asshole dad, who died 6 years ago. Um, would this have helped him? Would this have altered him to be able to work through his past issues so that he's not angry and unloading that on us all the time? So it brought out conversations with my dead guys and feeling more empathy and understanding for them, um and then, between taking the full trip and then finding ways to microdose just to keep things a little elevated but like steady, and then also therapy and also life coaching and also all of these things integrated together is what I feel like helped me out of that dark place
See,
that I was in. So I can't say it was one thing, but combining
well, and
so many things
that's what I was
together.
going to say. You're touching on something that's very important that people don't realize. They think, well, I tried counseling. Well, you tried 3 or 4 times. Like, okay, if
You need to
if you're
be
intensely
consistent and go with it for a longer time.
well, and then double up if you have to.
And combine it with other things.
It's important
Not
to have
looking
many
to one source to
Yes.
help, but
Yeah. That would be journaling, writing, speaking, recording yourself, doing what I've started is a audio journal for, I call them therapy sessions, because then I can go back. I'm like, okay, that was an idiot thought. Why would you think that? And then how do I redirect that? How do I think about that differently? Because I can see the illogical behavior behind it and thought process. And then I'm like, okay, well, it made sense at the time, but it's actually kind of stupid because you were pissed off. And now
Yeah.
you can go back and say, okay, quit being such, remember this, what you listen to? You're doing that right now. And you need to stop or you need to walk away. So that's what's I've been my own counselor in a way.
it is a thing that can happen.
Yeah.
You can, I've been the past couple of days counseling myself through shit that's come up and having fears and panics. And then, okay, hey, you know what? Slow down, calm down. Let's think about it. Okay. You've had crap before. We can do it again. This is not a permanent all the time thing that's going to persist forever. This is a temporary thing. Can you handle this for this temporary hypothetical period of time? If so, great. How are we going to process that? Like, we don't have to view this as a big picture thing. We can like take a small scope of time. And so like I've been counseling myself through stuff the past couple of days too.
And the key, I think, to that is you just have to take a hard look at yourself on a pretty consistent basis.
Yeah.
And saying hard look at yourself seems really negative. It's like, oh, that's really hard, but
It's
actually
reality.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you get in practice it, you're like, I'm always looking at who I am and how I behave.
Right. Taking
and
a
what I'm
hard look at
transferring.
it doesn't mean you're necessarily saying that you're a shit person
Right.
to take a hard look at yourself. That's just saying to really actually see the things and not just say everything's fine. But you have to see the things that aren't fine and be able to analyze, okay, so where did this come from? How did I process into this? How can I then process out of it? And that is possible.
Yeah. 100%. And it has to do with it turns out as perspective change and then turns into a paradigm shift.
Absolutely.
So it's a process, but a lot of people have a fear of the unknown. Well, what if I change in this way? Well, you don't know where you're going to change, but if you're moving out of your shit, you're probably going to get better. I mean, that's just Don't move lateral. Don't move side to side. Keep going forward. So, you got anything else? Anything you want to add?
I don't know. I think that's good.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode and the final chapter of that story. Join us next time, and that may be not this week, but not next week, but the following week. Gonna have a special guest, a special interview, and I want to make sure I pay attention to it and do it justice. It is somebody I've known that has helped me tremendously in my life. One of the few people that could. So we're going to keep it a little mystery, give it a little pizzazz. It will probably, it might be a lot of my story. It might be some of it. I'm not sure. It will, I'm sure, be most interesting. And I'll let you in a little bit more of that when I get closer. But I'll keep you updated on that and when it's gonna post. I will probably put some content out there before that. I'll probably put maybe a singular episode out before that just to keep you interested. But thank you for listening. I love you all. If you need help, if you need to contact somebody, if you need to talk to somebody, I don't have an emergency number, but you can always email me. We can start conversation. But don't forget, the suicide hotline is 988 on your phone. And our website is www.thesuicidemonk.com. You can also find us on Instagram, working on Facebook and TikTok, and starting YouTube. So, all right, well, thank you again for listening. And Suicide Monk out. We'll see you on the flip side.